the JakKlauZ show. It's 4:26 in the morning. I'm heading back from the airport. No passengers. So I'm going to do a little bit of a show on my way to getting gas back at the office. So it'll be like a normal show and everything, and show and go and be fine. So there is a thing that is kind of on my mind right now, and I keep thinking about things. And when I was growing up in my life and I was always wondering about things, I always had that mentality of what did people always expect of me? I always wondered what people expected of me. I just took a passenger to the airport just recently, before, and she was saying that her kid was 33 and that he's living the wonderful life. He doesn't have a job, but he has a girlfriend. She's got cats and dogs and a kid, and they go to Little Falls all the time and everything else. But I always thought that when you were a kid, when you were 18, you were supposed to go to high school. You were supposed to go, after 18, you're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to go to college or get a job, make some money, and get the hell out of your parents' house. Well, I failed miserably on that shit, because the thing is, I never got out of my parents' house until I was 35, and people made fun of me for that. People said, to me, they're like, Jack, you're 35 years of age, you're still living with your parents. That's kind of stupid, don't you think? That's kind of, but here's the thing. Money and what you got paid over time wasn't enough to buy a house, or wasn't enough to get an apartment where I was living. And there were places that I lived in that I tried so hard to have a place, but every time I would have a place, there would be so many rules in place that it was like different than living in your parents' house. Because in your parents' house, yeah, you could have women come over all you want to. But at this guy's place that I lived at, he didn't want he didn't want your girlfriend coming over, because he didn't want you banging your girlfriend at night in your room that you're renting, because he's doing something that he wasn't doing in his own house. But I kind of look back on everything that I ever did when I lived in Leesburg and Virginia and stuff, and the reason why I could never live there was the cost. I mean, we were hanging out with friends of mine, like my friend Matt Ginnebaum. I think he lived with his mom and dad. For a while, and then he finally moved on up to, an apartment somewhere. But the thing is that, he busted his ass, and he lived with his mom and dad for a while, because then he finally got money, which is fine. Yeah, which is fine. But our parents were like, oh, you need to get out of the house at 18 or 21, and you need to figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do and everything else. And I couldn't do that because I didn't have any friggin' money. I couldn't find a job. Nobody wanted to hire me because I didn't have any college degrees or any kind of skill set, is what my dad used to always say. Oh, you don't have any skill set. You're just you just have no reason of working. So we'll let you stay at our house for a little bit longer. And that's fine. But But then as soon as I got anywhere near with money, I would have a woman in my life or have a girlfriend that would just take all my money from me, or I would spend all my money on her trying to make her fucking happy, and she basically stole all my damn money. So anytime that I've ever been with a woman, in my life, they've always expected money from me. Now, Joe never expected money from me because Joe never wanted me for money. And I know this. But every girl that I had in my life that I had before Joe, looking back on everything, I spent all my money on pretty much my friends and my girlfriend, if I had girlfriends. But, I spent money on all my friends. And my friends were like, I'll get you back. I'll do this. I'll do that. Whatever. And every time I've ever needed my friends, there were some of them that would help me, and there were some of them that would just kind of let me just dangle like a carrot in front of a cow, or a carrot in front of a dog, or something, or whatever, or a gerbil. But over time, you find out who your friends are. You really find out who your friends are. And I never expected anything from my friends. I never expected my friends to ever pay for me. But I paid for my friends all the time. And then I've realized to myself that they're not really my friends because, I would be, spending money on them, and, I wouldn't really see anything back from them, or, get a cent back or anything like that. I had people live in my apartment and they would never pay rent, but I never really asked for it because the thing is that, I knew they were just crashing there for a while because they needed a place to stay for a while. So I was just helping them out. But, there was a time in my life when I totally freaking hit rock bottom, and that was when I left Jamie, and I was living out in Fredericksburg with a friend of mine named Jason Dickey. Well, Jason Dickey wasn't really a friend. He was actually a person that I worked with, and he was a real asshole, real arrogant fucknuts, if you know what I mean. And he was the kind of guy who basically was if I didn't pay rent, he would take something from me. And every time I did something, he would always jack up the rent all the time on me because he needed money for car parts for his truck. So he was always trying to, get money out of me, fuck me over royally, and make me feel like I was nothing but a bitch. So I knew there was something about him that I never liked. But then he ended up, getting a hemorrhage in his head, and something happened, and I don't know what happened to him, but he ended up hurting himself or whatever. But I'm not really worried about that because I don't really give a shit about it because I don't really care. But over time, you sit there and you think about things when you're a kid, and you just never think about saving any money. Yeah, you never think to say, well, maybe if I would save money, things would be better for me. You never think about that until it's too friggin' late. Everybody's wondering where all my money went to. Well, I can tell you where all my money went to. It went to friends. It went to a car that I couldn't afford. It went to, trying to buy stuff that was just not good enough. And then the family car that your parents gave you was never good enough, my mom and dad bought me a Neon. Well, after I had the 86 Chevy Nova, after I had the Nova, then they bought me the Neon. And I love that Neon, but I put money into that Neon trying to make it fast and trying to make it so that it was going fast. I spent so much money on that car, because I wanted to make it cool. Because I didn't want to have a Neon, But then there's a kid that rolls around St. Cloud, and he's got, neons. There's two of them. and they're pretty cool, and I talk to these guys, and these guys are like, yeah, whatever. They're like, young kids, and they think, that, their shit don't stink or whatever, and that's fine. But yeah, I used to have a Neon, and I thought it was a great little car. If I ever could have another one, I would make another one, but I would make it all-wheel drive and probably put like a 2.5 liter Eagle Talon motor in it, or the engine from a AMC, like an AMC Eagle or something like that, and put it in a Neon. That's what I would do. I would make a Neon all-wheel drive, because there's some Neons or some Cobalts or calipers, not Cobalts, calipers that are really nice, that are all-wheel drive, and I think they're cool as hell, and I would love to have one. Because there's a guy who WRC's his Cobalt, his Cobalt, or not Cobalt, his caliper. Why do I say Cobalt when I want to say caliber? So Dodge calipers, all-wheel drive, are awesome. I would love to have one. Yeah, I would love to have one. It'd be really cool. But yeah, that kind of car isn't even around anymore. Same thing with the PT Cruiser, the all-wheel drive PT Cruiser. They're not around anymore. So, yeah. But I mean, back in the day, man, if I would have just never ever really listened to any of my friends, or would have just, been myself, I probably would have been better off. I probably would have had a lot more money. I probably would have been, I probably would have been rich. Yeah. But then I would have been lonely rich, and I wouldn't have any friends to share it with or anything like that. But, none of my friends ever shared their money with me. Yeah. I mean, But I'm not saying anything that you guys need to share your money with me. I mean, I'm not saying that we'd be better friends if you would have shared your money with me. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there comes a time in people's lives when they look back on everything that they ever did, and they find out their mistakes, and they wonder why they're fucked up in life. Because, 90% of the time, I mean, look at me. I'm a guy who wanted to enjoy the fruits in life, but I was always trying to dig myself out of a hole all the time. I was always trying to make myself happy, but I was always pissed off because I was broke, or I wasn't happy because I never had any money. I never could get out of my parents' house. I was always under my parents' roof. And then finally, moving from Georgia and still living with my parents in Georgia, which, I could not believe I could never get away from them guys. But my parents, now, I'm young, or now I'm 45 now, and I'm a grown-ass man, and I've lived my life, and I've enjoyed it, but the thing is, I don't even ask my parents for anything anymore, because I barely talk to my mom and dad. I barely talk to my mom and dad because one thing is, I don't want to talk to my parents because I don't want to think that they always want me to call them because I need something from them all the time. The only thing I need from my parents is I need some love and support. I need somebody to tell me that all this stuff with, this divorce is going to go finalized and be done, and your life's going to be back to normal. But I don't need any, I'm not here to bash Joe. I never want to bash Joe, and I don't want her to ever feel like, she thinks that I am. Because I've already told the world how I feel about her. I love her, I think she's a great woman, and I think I ruined her life. And I think I ruined her whole family's life. Because that's what I say. I think I ruined their lives. I really think I have. And sometimes I don't feel like I should be breathing anymore. I sometimes feel like I should be in the ground, buried and dead, because I ruined somebody's life. And so maybe that if I'm gone, then the person can have, everything that, that I had, they can have it for themselves, and they can go and enjoy their life. Because, maybe that's what somebody needs, is they need a good, a good stern, they need a good stern loving it, But I don't want anything, I don't want any problems. I just want to live my life just like Joe wants to live hers and be with her family, and that's all I want her to be. I'm not talking down about her. I haven't talked down about Joe all night long. No, I haven't. Because, puts her pants on one leg at a time, and she goes and does what she has to do. Yeah. She makes ends meet. She does everything that she has to do with what she's got. And me in her life was probably one of the worst things that could ever happen for her. That's what I think. Because I was a bad person. Yeah, I was. And I admit to everything. And I want her to be able to go back to England and be with her family and just have the whole entire world. But enough about Joe, because she's got enough going on in her life, and she doesn't need to worry about what I have to say. But I mean, she was a secretary for him, and you were in Washington D.C. You were living your life, and you were having a good time. But you were also, living, and you were going in and out of different, you were going into different, different places, like different nannies, and you were seeing different people and getting babysat by other people, and they were just because you were going there, when school was in session, or you were going and doing things in your life to get through first grade, second grade, or kindergarten all the way up to sixth grade. And then you went back to North Dakota, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then you went back to Virginia, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And you graduated, in Loudoun County High School after being belittled by everybody there, because nobody really wanted you at Loudoun County High School, because they wanted to know why the hell you were coming to school there from a place like North Dakota, which had high school. I got made fun of by a lot of people. I got beat up by a lot of people because of who I was, But it was okay, I just told my parents that I was fine. And my parents, they were just like always thinking that I was looking for attention. But, I wasn't. But, I wasn't happy living in Virginia. But I just made it work, dude. Because I didn't care. I figured there was a reason why I'm going to school in Leesburg, or going to school at Laurel Ridge Elementary School, and, doing what I have to do while, they do things well, But I took it every day, one day at a time. And I lived my life. That's what I did. But, I never really ever thought that I never really thought that I was going to, be living a lifestyle that I did. I was living like a rock star lifestyle because I was hanging out with my friends, like Jake, Jordan, Trevor. I mean, those guys had Superplex, Donnie Guthrie, I was hanging out with him, Jordan, I love Jordan so much. I mean, we were all good friends. We were living the rock star life. Because every time I hung out with Jake when he had a concert, it was always so fun. I mean, the band was called Superplex, and then it was Jacob Hope and the Free Agents. But, you know, it's always been good music. And one of the things that got me through life was, you know, I had people who I could talk to, you know. And then Jake ended up going to school here in Minnesota. And so when I found out that he was going to school here in Minnesota, I was like, dude, that's bitching. You know, I have somebody to talk to. You know, and then we recorded albums together. Yes, I had a stint where I was doing some freestyle rapping at one time in my life, and it turned out to be really funny. The only person who has any of those albums, I think, is Jordan. But, you know, I'm trying to get my SoundCloud back up and running, and I'm trying to, you know, find stuff and do some music again. Because somebody told me, they're like, Jack, you should sing. I think Zach told me that one day. Zach was like, dude, man, you should sing. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to, but, you know, I just have to keep going to work every day and saving up some money, and things will happen. Yeah. But I just really wish that I could find a way to make things better. I just wish that there was some kind of way that my life could be better than being a downward spiral all the time. I don't know what I ever did to deserve this, and I don't get it. I mean, this is a continuation from earlier show when I got on at 8 o'clock. But this is the morning show. This is the JakKlauZ morning show. And it's 4:26 in the morning that we started. And now we're going and we're doing a little bit more fun. You know, we're trying to get down the road of life and, you know, get back on track. You know, I started at 8 o'clock last night, and I'm working till now. I'm on my way back to the office. I'm going to get gas, I'm going to wash my van, and I'm going to go home. And then I have to come back here at 5:15 this afternoon. And then Friday morning, I get to meet Jess for coffee because, you know, she's somebody that wants to meet me, and, you know, and maybe have breakfast, you know. And I can't wait to do that, because I can't wait to meet somebody. I can't wait to be happy, because maybe this is what will make my life turn around, or maybe it'll blow up in my face and it'll fall apart. But nothing's going to come of it. I'm just going to say it didn't work out. If it didn't work out. But we haven't, you know, even seen each other yet. So I want to give it a shot. I can't wait to see Jess on Friday for coffee. But I'm excited. Yeah. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Because, you know, I really think that, you know, maybe that's my ticket to move on. You know? And maybe Jack will be happy. But who knows? I had a person call me Thor again. Yeah. I had somebody say that they were like, so when you do your name, are you going to do JakKlauZ KamoKlauZ, or are you going to do JakKlauZ Frosty Claus, like you said before? And I said, I don't know. I like the Thor, but, you know, it's been done already. I don't think that I'm like Chris Hemsworth. I don't think I'm anything like him. But to be honest with you, if you actually look in Norse mythology, Thor, he was a big, heavy-set guy. He was a fat guy in a little coat. No, he was a fat guy who basically, you know, treated women like garbage. But I don't want to treat women like garbage. I just want to love everybody, okay? Yes, I want to love everybody. I want, you know, to be, you know, just, I want to be happy all the time. I never want to be, you know, I never want to be hated on. I don't want people to hate me. I want people to understand that, you know, I do have a heart inside this bear-like body, and I do have feelings. I'm an emotional wreck 90% of the time when people hate me, because I've never really understood why people would hate me. Like, why would you hate me? Like, why would you not want to be my friend? I never want to hate anybody. I never want somebody to not like me, because I sure as hell don't know what I ever did to deserve that. But anyway, I just want to continue to live my life and be me. You know? And every day is a new chapter in my life. You know, I am working on a documentary called the JakKlauZ, or the Jack Greening to JakKlauZ documentary, and I talk about my life, and I talk about things that have happened. And the name JakKlauZ, it was so funny. I was sitting at Jake's house when I went to go visit Jake one night, and I had this dream. Yeah. And I was sleeping on Jake's couch. I had this dream, and everybody used to call me Big Hungry. Yeah, Big Hungry was, you know, and I was thinking Big Humongous, and then I was like, you know, Big Humongous, and then I was like, what about JakKlauZ? Like JAXUMOUS, or JAXMOUS. Like, you know, because I'm awesome, I'm humongous, because I'm big, you know, big and humongous. So I was like, you know, why not JakKlauZ? And I thought, holy shit, that is like the coolest freaking name ever. And so that's where JakKlauZ came from. And then I thought, well, you know, I was a cowboy. I liked wearing cowboy hats and boots. So I called myself Cowboy JakKlauZ. Also known as Rebel J. Because I was Rebel JakKlauZ. You know, like Rebel J. And Rebel J was my, you know, Rebel J was my mic name, you know, because it was like Rebel JakKlauZ, or Rebel Jack, or, you know, or, yeah, Cowboy JakKlauZ, aka Rebel Jack, or Rebel J. And I thought that was really cool, and I was down for that. I thought that was a really cool name. I thought that was really cool to have. And, you know, I thought that was like really badass. So I got rid of the whole like Big Hungry, and, you know, nobody calling me that anymore. Nobody really telling me that was a cool name anymore, because it was kind of just one of those things that was really over and done with. It was like, sayonara, buddy. It's time for you to move on. Because, you know, nobody really cares about the Cowboy JakKlauZ, or nobody cares, not the Cowboy JakKlauZ. Wow, somebody hit the guardrail hard. Ouch. fell asleep looked like that one did. Yeah. I mean, they hit the guardrail hard. So if you're going on 94 towards, if you're going on 94 towards Maple Grove, yeah, there's an accident on the far left shoulder. So yeah. But anyway, but so I got rid of the whole Big Hungry thing. I stopped going by Big Hungry. It was a nickname that I kept in my repertoire, but I never got rid of it. So it was a name that stayed. But then Cowboy Jacksonist, dude, I fell in love with that name. I thought that was so cool. And then I started changing up the style of rapping that I did. But I did like a song, Can I Get a Hot Tub? Which, you know, was about the State Farm commercial where the guy comes in and goes, Can I get a hot tub? And then I turned it into a song. And then Jake and I did some music together in his apartment. And, you know, we did songs like, you know, Dead or Alive, you know, Jack Smith's Dead or Alive, Volume 1. And it was talking about the volleyball breasts that bounce around on the video game. And it was some of the things that, you know, just because that was how the game was. Because, see, when you played the video game Dead or Alive Pro Volleyball, if you turn the age limit all the way up to 99, the girls, they bounce all over the place. Their jugs bounce all over the place. And it's just one of those things that guys did. And people thought it was so funny that I knew that kind of thing and that I found out about that. And then TJ and all the guys used to make fun of me back in the day that I had so much porn on my computer. And one day I just, you know, started out, you know, trying to figure out something for, you know, what I was gonna call all this porn, and I was like, why don't I call it Berserker Porn Works? And I just thought that was funny, and I basically started calling my company Berserker Porn Works. And I was into all this stuff, and you know, but Jake and Jordan never knew about that because I never really talked to them about that. But it was because it wasn't really on my mind. But, you know, but I talk about all kinds of stuff in my life because the thing is that I think of all these crazy ass things that are inside my head and nobody really understands why it comes out. And one of the podcasts that I used to have back in the day was called the Berserker Naked Podcast, and it was a hook to basically get people to come to my podcast to watch my channel, because the thing is it had the word naked in it, and everybody thought that I was naked. And then I had a guy even get in the chat room one time and be like, dude, you're not naked. This is the stupidest podcast I've ever seen. But every time they would come on the show, it would be, you're not naked. That's what they'd say in the chat. And they'd get so pissed. And what I would always say that the naked part meant was it was the naked truth. Meaning that, you know, there was somebody who would actually research a lot of stuff that would go on and make people, you know, think about things before they buy it, you know. But now I just call it the KamoKlauZ show instead of the Berserker Naked show, or the Berserker Naked podcast. I call it the KamoKlauZ show because basically what I want to do is I want to dig my claws into the you know, into the bullshit of life and tell people, hey, you know what? There's better things to do in your life than dealing with what somebody wants you to do. I mean, you can live your life and be happy all you want to. You just got to know the answers. Somebody else has got to dig their claws into the information instead of you have to do it, So that's what I'm doing. So the Berserker Claws show is basically like the Pat McPhee show, or the Joe Rogan show, where Joe Rogan has guests on. I have guests on my show. I would love to have guests on my show. I would love to bring people over to my house, have them sit on the the guest chair that I have, or sit on the couch in my room, and then we film them and we talk and have a conversation. I mean, yes, I understand that my studio is in my bedroom, but the thing is that, my bed, there's no action going on in that bed. There's nothing going on in there. Because I'm never really going to have anyone in my life. But, now that I met Jess, I would hope that she and I can someday, be cool with each other. And we're meeting each other Friday morning for coffee, which I can't wait for it. I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited. I'm giddy, And I just think it's going to be really cool. And I'm not going to talk bad about her if it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It was never meant to be. Because I don't have any luck with the ladies. Nobody wants to get with this guy. Nobody wants to be with KamoKlauZ. Everybody just thinks the name KamoKlauZ is like, weird and like funny and everything else. But all I am is an everyday guy who lives his life to the fullest and tries to have a good time out of it. Is what I try to do. Because that's all I want to do, is I want to live my life and be happy. That's all I want to do. But I've never really been a kind of a person who's ever really, thought that maybe, I would ever have to ever be single again, but, and it happens. People just don't work out. But you just keep on. You just move on. You live your life. And I keep on sitting here saying that the only flowers I'm ever going to get are the ones that they're going to put on my gravesite. I'm not even going to have a gravesite. No. I'm going to be cremated, dude. And then somebody can throw my ashes out in front of a McDonald's, or throw my ashes out in front of the lake or something, or whatever. What I really and truly want to do when I die, what I really want is I want somebody to put my ashes on a boat, on a plywood boat, and then shoot it and then cover it all in gasoline. Yep. Cover it all in gasoline and then shoot the thing with an arrow with a whole bunch of fireworks on it. Yeah, with a whole bunch of fireworks on it. So that thing goes up like the 4th of July. And I go out with a bang. Literally. Because that's how I want to be remembered. And I don't want people to cry at my funeral. I don't want people to feel down or bad. Because the thing is that I lived my life and I was happy. I want everybody to feel happy. I remember back in the day, somebody said that when I died, they said, I think Andrew said this. I think Andrew Dye or Andrew Perkison said this. He said that, when Jack dies, it's not going to be a sad day. Because Jack wouldn't want that to be that way. Jack would want everybody to be happy. Because Jack wants people to be happy. Jack doesn't ever want anybody to hate him. Jack wants people to feel the love and the greatness that he is. And that's what that aura goes over top of Jacksamus, is he has that thing about him that just makes people happy. And you can never be upset when you're around me. Because the thing is that I always make people happy. I try to, because I don't want to have anybody hate me. I don't want to have everybody think that I'm a bad person and that I'm just the worst thing in your entire life. Whoever comes into your world and just goes, hey, I may have different views on things that you like, but I don't like. But I don't just straight hate you for it. And if you hate me, I don't know why. I mean, I don't understand why you hate me. Because I am one of the most nicest guys in the entire world. And I'm actually a person that would literally, give you money to make you happy. I would give you money to make you happy. I would give you money so that you could find a place to stay. I would actually let you crash at my house if your dog cuts you, and then the court, the court wants your boyfriend to stay away from you because they think that he cuts you or a domestic problem, right, Zoe? So, I mean, the thing is that, I'm serious about trying to help out everybody because I love people. I don't have any disrespect for anybody, and I don't hate everybody, and I don't understand why people think right away that, like, I hate everybody, like I'm the biggest ogre of them fucking all that doesn't like to be around people. No. I actually like people, I live off of positive people because that's the kind of person I am. Because I like positive people, not negative Nancy's. Yeah. And that's what my 8 o'clock podcast was about, was being positive in the world and not being negative Nancy's and trying to think everything was fine. But I was telling people, look, I've made mistakes and I've learned from them. I've moved on. So everybody else can move on in this world too. Why can't everybody else? So, and I'm a big fan of the show Jersey Shore. I've watched Jersey Shore all the time. I would love to be on a reality show like that because I think it'd be kind of cool, But who knows, man? I'd also like to have my own show, and I do. I have the KamoKlauZ show, the Berserker Claus show. I have my own show, and I talk to myself through a network of, live people. Because I'm trying to go live. I'm trying to get enough lives in and trying to get enough people so that I can go live on Facebook or go live on YouTube. Because I'd love to be able to go live on YouTube, but I don't have enough followers yet. I don't have 1,000 followers on my YouTube channel. But I'd love to have 1,000 followers. I'd like to make money with YouTube. I think it'd be kind of cool. As a side job. But, we'll just have to see where it goes. But I'm not going to ever stop trying to be, Jack Craning or Jaximus. Well, I'm going to be stopping being Jack Craning because once, everything gets going with my divorce, I'm going to be JakKlauZ in the state of Minnesota because my name's going to get changed. That's one of the things that I want to get done, and everybody knows that. I'm trying to get everybody who used to know the real Jack Craning. Yeah, you know the song, I'm Jack Craning, yes, I'm Jack Craning, all you other Jack Cranings are just imitating, so won't the real Jack Craning please stand up? Please stand up. Yeah, I did a song called The Real Jack Craning, which, is basically, well, I didn't sing it, but Jake did. And, it's a song that was in my head, and it was a song that I talked about, and Jake went ahead and did it, but it was really cool. So, I thought it was funny. I don't know if, Eminem would think it was funny. I don't know. I have no idea. But, I just was doing a parody song, and I did it about me. So, or it was done about me. And it was really funny. And I thought it was really cool. And I had nothing but respect for that song. But, see, the thing is that I'm not Jack Craning anymore, because once everything changes in my divorce, I'm going to be JakKlauZ, because my hair is starting to turn white, my beard's starting to turn white, and I'm getting legendary, and I'm getting to be superior. I'm going to start getting more seasoned, so I'm going to start becoming more me. That's what's going to end up happening. So I'm working on becoming me, and that's what I want to be. So, that's how it's got to be. So, I'm just a person who lives his life every day to the fullest, trying to be positive, trying to get through life, and not worrying about what everybody thinks about me. I mean, I accept people's friend requests on Facebook all the time. But then when, that guy had a dog in his car. It was huge. It was awesome. So I accept friend requests from people all the time on Facebook. But then I message them and I say, hey, what do you want from me? I video chat. I send them a video message saying, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm from Minnesota. I'm into video chatting. So would you please send me a video message with a response? Or if you don't video chat with me, then you're wasting my time and I'm going to block you. Because the thing is that I like to do video chats. I like to do this kind of stuff. I like to get to know my fans face to face. Because the thing is that everybody hides behind a voice chat, or they hide behind text messages. I want to see that, guy in that bunker in Kenya who wants to talk to me and who wants to pretend that he's a girl with a big pair of boobs and a great figure. But we all know that he's just a guy trying to get people to get, information from him so that he can get money from them. Because there's all kinds of guys that would give a beautiful woman everything they want just to see her, just to, get a glimpse of a boob or a side elbow, Because there's all these kind of guys that are gullible out there, and they're, and they're just being that way. But here's the thing, guys. We all live our lives, we all enjoy ourselves, and we just want to be happy. That's all we want. We want everything to be, the greatest thing in life. But we also want to be the greatest thing in life. We want to be the greatest. We want to be the guy that hits the home run. We want to be the guy that scores the winning touchdown. We also want to be the guy that has the trophy wife, that has the great, girlfriend that everybody wants. But sometimes we can't get that. But we can still be good, because we go out there and we give it our all every day, even though we don't have to. And, it is Mental Health Month, and I say that because there are so many guys out there that feel like they get hurt all the time. They feel like they get catfished, ghosted, and then they think, well, God, if no girl ever wants to be with me on Facebook, then no girl wants to be with me ever in life, so maybe I just need to end it all. No, you don't. You know what you need to do? You need to keep living your life for who you are, and you need to keep on living your life, be happy, pay off all your debts, pay off all your problems, and take all that money and take yourself on an exotic trip to like Florida or go to the Bahamas, or go to Mexico and find some, Mexican, Mexican senoritas that love it when you throw pesos their way, or just being happy, and spending money on them. And maybe they'll do something with you because they'll think you're awesome. But then when there's no dinero, they don't care. And they just, don't want you around anymore. Yeah. But you know what? You lived your life. You enjoy it. You live your life every day for the fullest, for who you want to be. Because that's what you should do. I mean, I sit here and feel negative about myself sometimes, but then I realize to myself that, what the hell's wrong with me? I don't need this bullshit in my life. I don't need to be negative like that. So you know what? I just turn around and do another podcast and say, hey, what you guys heard earlier, now it's changing. Because the thing is that, sometimes you just don't need to have somebody in your life. Sometimes you just need to take care of yourself first. You're always going to have a woman who loves you. You want to know who that is? Your mother. She was your first love. But sometimes, they kind of get tired of you and they want you to grow up and move out and live on your own and just not bother them anymore. Or they're going to go see, the other parts of your family members and then, you can come over whenever you can. And you just have to deal with it. And that's like what I have with Julie. I mean, Julie's my work mom who used to work at Groom and now she works someplace else. But she is one of the greatest people in my life and I love her more than anything in the world. She is the one that helps do my braids. She did this. Yeah, she did all this work. Yep, she did all this. So she did all that when I was at my lowest. And she's great. But I also want her to show me how to use the sewing machine so that we can start sewing my clothes and getting all the tracks. Getting all the KamoKlauZ stuff done. Yeah, the KamoKlauZ stuff done. Because I got uniforms and stuff I have to get done and everything to get finalized and finished because that's what I have to do. But anyway, it's just one of those things. So, and always live life to the fullest. Yeah, live life every day to the fullest like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Because, if you don't live life to the fullest, then you shouldn't be living. Because, living is the next thing that you want to do on your list of things to do. Because if you don't take life too serious, you'll never get out alive. Yeah, you'll never get out alive. You'll always be feeling bad about yourself, and you'll never understand that, hey, it's good to be positive about things. But, that's just a different taxi cab confessional altogether. But, so I heard the program that I use, they're going to be starting up a subscription fee. So I don't know how long I'll be able to do these videos anymore. Because, I got to pay a subscription for it. And I don't know when that's going to happen. But hopefully we can keep doing some videos until things happen. Because I really do like talking to you guys and hoping you guys watch my podcast and watch my videos later. I mean, when you're sitting on the John, or sitting on the crapper, you can be like, hey, I'll watch a little bit of Jack's video here and think about it. And then I'll be sitting there and getting ring around my asshole and hurting myself for sitting on the toilet too long because I watched a whole hour video of Jackson is talking to himself, because that's what I do, I talk to myself. Because I'm my own best friend sometimes. I think so anyway. I really do think that I'm my own best friend sometimes. And I get mad at myself all the time. I'll tell you right now, I cannot wait to get home and go to bed. Because I think it's just going to happen. Oh, look. A guy towing a boat who won't get his ass over in the slow lane because he's got so much goddamn pride, he's just never going to get over. Because he thinks, oh, I got a boat, and I'm towing it with a stupid piece of shit-ass Ford pickup truck, and I'm just going to fucking drive down the road, or I'm going to pull it with a Chevy, and I'm just going to fucking be a douchebag, because that's what I can do. Because I pay my taxes, and I don't plan on, ever letting anybody, tell me that I'm wrong for towing a fucking boat, with a Chevy, and, yeah. Because, nobody in Minnesota ever seems to ever, get over when they get passed. Because they think, oh yeah, I'm a dumbass because I can't drive in the slow lane because I'm towing a fucking boat. Move your ass out the way, you dumbass. In the words of Ludacris, move, bitch, get out the way. Because nobody ever, drives in the slow lane. They always think that, I pay my taxes. I can be in any lane I want to be in. Shut up. Just move your damn vehicle if you're going slower than everybody else. Because ain't nobody want to hear that shit. Anyway. But the thing is that, more and more people, are going to realize to themselves that things that they did back in the day with their lives, they could have probably done things a little bit differently. They could have made better decisions in life. And now that they've, gotten older, they're probably realizing to themselves, hey, I'm glad I made these decisions. I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I did that. Because people are a lot better off with some of the decisions that they made. Yeah. My decision in life, I wish I would have saved a lot more money instead of spending it all the damn time. I blew all my damn money. I blew every cent I ever made. Because I was stupid. I was an idiot. Yeah, I was dumb. I was a money idiot. I never put it in CDs or in investments or anything like that until now. I put money in investments now, and, supplemental income was pretty cool, man. Acorns, and I put it in Acorns. I use that program, and it's really good because they round up all the money that you use from your check, and they put it aside, so it's supplemental insurance or supplemental income. Yeah. I never ever thought of that. I also use this other company called Mutual of Omaha, and they do supplemental insurance. They take $53 out of my check every month, and they put it to something, and over time, it'll grow. I never knew to do that. No. I never knew to put it in CDs. I didn't know to put money into CDs. I didn't know that putting money into the bank for 10 years would turn into $10,000. Well, I wish my parents would have told me that. They might have, and I said, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to put my money into a bank and get more money out of it? Because I'm going to wait for it. But I guess I never learned. Yeah, I guess I never learned. So I'm an idiot for not learning that from my parents. Chalk that up to my stupidity and my dumbness. Because, sometimes we make dumb decisions. I've made a lot of them. Yep. I've made a lot of dumb decisions in life. And I'm learning from it now. I'm working, a job where I make $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And I love every minute of it. Now, if I would just save the money that I make instead of blowing it on hookers and beer and, hookers and stupid shit, and eating out all the time, maybe I would have a little bit more. I wouldn't have to, get a loan, and I wouldn't have to take care of things. I could just pay off shit without having any problems. But, who knows? I'm learning from my mistakes. Yep. Kudos to me learning at a young age. I'm kidding. I'm 45 years of age. I'm learning things. I'm being a dumbass. I'm pretty much ruining my entire friggin' life because I'm an idiot. I don't know a lot of things. But I'm working on figuring out shit one day at a time. So much. Yeah, because instead of going to the gas station here to buy food, I'm gonna go home and make pancakes. Because I have great syrup from a passenger of mine. She gave me syrup, and I have a whole shit ton of Bisquick inside my refrigerator. So I'm gonna turn my griddle on, make sure that sucker's at 375 degrees, aim my little gun at it, and then I'm gonna make sure that my griddle's nice and warm, and then I'm gonna make pancakes. And I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna eat some pancakes, and then I'm gonna go to bed for 10 hours. Because that's what I want to do. I want to sleep for 10 hours on a full tummy. Because somebody said you don't eat before you go to bed. Dude, it's 5:30 in the fucking morning. It's breakfast time. I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry. So I'm hungry and I want to eat. So I'm going to make some freaking pancakes. I'm going to shoot a video. And I'm going to tell you guys how to make pancakes. Flapjacks made by Berserker Jack. And you guys are going to be like, oh my God, this guy has got no life. And he's just a waste of time. But I always thought that women thought it was sexy that a man could cook. They say to get into a woman's heart, you gotta learn how to cook breakfast. Or cook burgers, or cook anything. Well, Jack can cook, I can. I used to be a chef at American Eat and Tappery, or American Tap and Eatery. Yep, I made burgers all the time. Best damn burgers I ever made. I love making food. Twister fries, I liked making those in the deep fat fryer. I have an air fryer now, but I love, doing things. I love cooking at home. Because it's anything that you can make at home is better than anything you can buy at McDonald's. It is. You get bigger portions. But, you can make a burger for yourself and just enjoy yourself and be happy because you made something for yourself. Brian Elvestead will tell you that. Brian Elvestead is one of my best friends. I love his ass. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He was around for a lot of things in my life, and I realized, that there's nothing wrong with the guy. He's great. Just like Tony Jensen. Got karaoke Wee Fest coming up. Win tickets to go see karaoke. I did that once. Yeah. I won second place in the Wee Fest karaoke. Yeah, I did. I got to go to WeFest because of Tony. But I also got to go to WeFest because of Toby Keith. Because I won a karaoke contest out of 86,000 people. 86,000 people. I sang Red Solo Cup online, and I won. I had Toby Keith's publicist call me, and she was like, "You did a really good version of Red Solo Cup. You ended up winning 3 tickets and backstage passes to see Toby Keith at WeFest." And I said, "Shut up." And I hung up on her. And she called me back. And she was like, "No, you really did win." And she goes, "If you don't believe me, this guy will tell you." And Toby Keith was right there, and he's like, "Hey, this is Toby Keith. I just want to tell you that you won tickets to go to WeFest, and I hope to see you there in the backstage pass area." And me and Ryan Elfring got to go see Toby Keith. We got to go meet him. We both got pictures with his ass. And I gave him my my Confederate flag cowboy hat. I gave Toby Keith my Confederate flag cowboy hat, and he loved it. Thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I gave him some CDs of mine, but I never heard anything back from the CDs. I think he threw those away, but I don't care. I mean, I got to meet Toby Keith. I was happy. Probably Toby Keith didn't like the music because the music was probably crap, but that's okay. Well, I'm doing different music now. I'm doing freestyle country, freestyle country is what I'm doing. So basically, you take a song about politics or life and put it all together and you go from there. Yeah. Turn it into a song. You don't need instruments or anything like that because, one, you just basically just pretend like you're playing a guitar and try to make it look like you're putting words to it and use an instrumental in the back and go from there. Yeah. Who knows? Oh, here we go. Heartburn again. That's from all the garbage and shit that I eat. But coming to my final thought this morning, I'll basically tell you right now that my life is just like a revolving door. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a whirlwind of pain, and I don't really know how to get out. I don't know when I'm going to find that light at the end of the tunnel that's not a train. Or I'm going to find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That isn't just an empty, that isn't an empty pot with nothing in it. Some days are better than others. Some days you just got to take what you got and go with it. And some days you just got to learn from your own mistakes and use your own advice and take off with it. I mean, some days you just have to understand that, people in this world are sometimes considered crazy because they don't really know the real answers in life and they don't really know what they want in life. But, it's time for people to figure out that, hey, biting the bullet is one thing, But living your life to the fullest potential that you know that you can do is the best thing that you could ever do. Because people respect you if you believe in yourself and you believe in them. Because they want you to succeed. They want you to go far in life. People want you to be around. People understand when people are going through situations that they can't cope with. You know, you just have to take it one day at a time, and you'll figure it out. Because, you know, if you just go in it with the idea that you're going to win it and you're going to do it, then it works. Because everybody's happy. And one of the things that I always say is that, you know, if you just keep on feeling positive, nothing will bother you anymore. No. Your life will just keep going. And that's the best thing to keep on doing, is just to keep going. Because like it said in the Kung Fu Panda movie, the past is in the past because it's behind you and it's gone. The present is what it is every day when you open up your eyes. You get a present, which means that you get a gift. And then your future is what you make it, but it doesn't. Nobody even knows what their future exists because it hasn't been written yet. So live life for the present and always be thankful for the present that you get when you wake up every day, because you're keeping on going. So that's what I say to that. So, you know, at 8 o'clock yesterday night, I had a blowing up session and I was a little upset and I was crying and I was down because, well, I was. And I realized to myself that I've made a lot of mistakes. But now I've learned from my mistakes, carried on to this morning's podcast, and did the JakKlauZ show with a little bit more of a happier attitude. So I'm going to continue to take it day by day and just continue to be happy and live my life. And, you know, go from there. Because the one thing I've realized to myself is that when you're happy, people are happy around you. When you're upset, people are upset too. But the thing is that you live your life every day like it's your last day on this earth. Because you know that if you're gone, somebody's going to miss you. But if you're there, somebody's going to want to hang out with you. So just take life as it comes, save your money, and just enjoy your life. And hang out with your family members, because you don't know how long you got them until they're gone. Yeah. Because one minute they could be there, and the next minute they could be gone. Just like that. So, I hope people have a good day on this wonderful Thursday morning. I hope people, you know, who have to go to bed and work Thursday night, I hope they enjoy their life and they get a good night's sleep, and then they come back and do it again tomorrow for work, or come back and do it tonight for work, because they're going to get done on Thursday They're going to go to work on Thursday night and get up on Friday morning and meet somebody that might turn out to be the next Mrs. Claus. That's what I'm getting excited for. So, to all the guys, good night. To all the ladies, good morning. And I just want to say thanks again for watching. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Because, that's coming around the bend. It's a beautiful morning already. It's 46 degrees outside. A little bit overcast. Yeah, I got some clouds in the sky, but nothing to worry about. It's kind of open. But I just want to say, live your life and enjoy yourself. Have a good morning. Have a great day.